Hello and welcome to the latest edition of our ECIST series of bite-sized podcasts. My name is Emma-Treise Aherne and I'm a nurse and an improvement manager with ECIST. And I'm joined today by Karon, and I'm going to let Karon introduce herself. Good morning, Karon.
Good morning, thank you, Emma. My name's Karon Strong. I'm Head of Nursing for the Division of Medicine at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in King's Lynn.
It is absolutely lovely to have you with us this morning, Karon. I've been excited about speaking to you since you set Twitter on fire a couple of weeks ago with your activity around Recondition the Nation, and it's Recondition the Nation that we're going to be chatting about this morning. So, Karon, would you be able to start just by saying what Recondition the Nation is for people who aren't aware?
So, Recondition the Nation for me and us here at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital is about enabling people to mobilise, enabling people to socialise. It's not just about the doing away with deconditioning patients, but it's that social aspect of things. It's that eating together. It's the taking part in activities. Hospital can be a very boring place for patients, and it can be just, people can get hugely depressed. So it's not just about reconditioning when we talk about activity and getting people up and walking, but it's about lowering that. People get very depressed, people get very sad in hospital, and it's about reconditioning from a mental well-being perspective as well, not just a physical well-being perspective.
So we know the damage. We know the damage deconditioning does.
Absolutely.
But this is more than stopping that damage, isn't it? It's about flipping it on its head and seeing what added value we can give to patients when they're in hospital to get them out sooner, to get them out better, and to give them their independence. Is that the way you would see it?
That's absolutely how we would see it, and it's about, we know we've got issues right across the country that there's not enough care facilities out there for patients, and they're spending longer and longer in hospital. And the last thing that we want to happen while they're spending longer and longer in hospital is for them to get more and more depressed. Yes. And it's about giving them stuff to do, giving them a purpose to be able to get out of bed in the morning and actually chat with people, meet with people, and do different activities.
So I know that you have been doing amazing things and you've really taken this on board and you have run with it in the trust. Tell us about what you have been doing.
So we've been doing lots of things. And it's difficult to get an entire trust engaged, of course, but we've had 4 wards in particular, and I'll give a shout out to them.
Please do.
So Feltwell Ward, which is one of our medically fit for discharge wards, West Dereham and West Newton Ward, both frailty and dementia wards, and Gayton Ward, our orthopaedic ward, have really run with it, and they've done all sorts of that. And for me, when we meet, it's about saying nothing's silly and everything's possible, and I will try and facilitate whatever I can, should it be purchase and stuff, whatever, just to enable. So Gayton Ward, for example, have introduced a snack trolley because, again, reconditioning for us at the QE isn't just about movement, it isn't just about socializing. Nutrition and hydration is hugely important as well, and I think we all have issues with nutrition and hydration, and it's about doing stuff differently. So Gayton Ward, for example, have got their snack trolley. They've set it at the end of the ward, and they encourage their post-op patients to get up and walk to the trolley rather than taking the trolley to them. And it has made such a difference. We are looking at the fact that we're discharging patients that have come in for a hip replacement 48, 72 hours earlier than we would normally. And for me, that's huge. People are getting back to their own homes. Feltwell Ward, they've devised they've got a logo. They've gone all out. They're our first gold award winners.
Well done.
They are doing lots of stuff. They're performing in all 3 categories. So the 3 categories are making a difference, supporting staff to stay active, and and they've been really, really good. So they've organised social events. We live in Norfolk. The coastline's absolutely beautiful. They had a night out called Chasing the Sunset, where the team went out and walked along the Norfolk coast. So that's helped with them. They've got static pedals for the patients. They don't have the facilities of a day room, unfortunately, in Feltwell, whereas our 2 frailty wards do. But what they've managed to do, we've purchased some tables to put in the bay windows. Every day I walk onto that ward, there's patients sat in the bay windows. They can look out. They're sitting chatting to each other. It's just fabulous.
It's amazing to hear. Oh, sorry, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's just amazing to hear that it's not just the patients, it's the staff as well.
Yeah, and our elderly therapy team, we have had superb support from our AHP colleagues. They've been so on board with this. Again, they're walking 500 miles through the middle of November to the middle of December. I tweeted the other day that they've just managed 207 miles between them, and that's all outside of work to keep them going as well, because it's about that morale. It's about the difference this can make to absolutely everybody.
And Karon, this has obviously made real difference to patients. Now, when you and I caught up before, you told me some specific examples and they blew my mind. Would you be able to just tell the people listening about the patients that this has made about a couple of the patients that this has made a tangible difference to, about them getting back to their own lives?
Yeah, of course, Emma. So I guess the ones that are really special to me, and we've talked about on a couple of occasions. So on one of our medically fit for discharge wards, we had patients that have been in hospital a considerable amount of time, and we're talking months, awaiting different packages of care or different placements. And before we started this game, the Reconditioning Games, and we've got a strap line. We've called it "Let's Get Moving."
Nice.
Before we started Let's Get Moving, these patients had been seen by our AHP colleagues and had been deemed to be on pathway 2. So they were actually not being able to go back to their own home. They were going to need either placements or a significant increase in package of care. So what happened week before last was that 2 patients in particular that had both been deemed as pathway 2 patients and had been quite deconditioned, had got really interested in getting up and about and doing the activities. We do all sorts of things like armchair yoga and you name it, we try it. And these patients had started to get up and go across to the bathroom rather than ask for the commode, and it became sort of a, hang on a minute, that person in the bed next to me is doing better than me today. I need to actually get up and do more. And it got to the stage where we actually got these patients across and they were getting showered rather than bed bathed, etc. Both of those patients have gone home to their home environment with very minimal care packages. And for me, that's the difference that it makes to a patient.
That's transformative to those patients' lives.
Absolutely, it is.
And then, of course, we've got the added benefit of pressures on the system with care and what have you. And if patients aren't actually requiring that care, it can go to somebody who does need it when we've got a very finite resource. Karon, that's absolutely amazing. And what are you going to do next? I mean, is this it now? You've got all your certificates and your medals and you're top of the tree, or are you planning more? I think you're probably planning more.
Absolutely, we're not giving up. This isn't just I've been really fortunate. I've got huge support from our board of directors and the executive team. And we met with senior nurses and the chief nurse only on Monday. And this isn't going to just run for the Reconditioning Games. This is becoming business as usual in the QE. So absolutely, it's tangible, Emma. The different feel when you walk onto a ward that's really engaging in it, because the staff morale is so much different. And it was difficult to start with. The staff would say, oh, we're having to get Mr. Smith, for example, up and out of bed. And actually that takes 2 of us and it's going to take us longer and it's easier to give him a bed bath. And it was all quite negative. Mm-hmm. The very same ward now that I go on, everybody's sat out, everybody's dressed, people are starting to mobilise with frames across to the toilet. They've absolutely realised the difference that it makes to their working life as well. because it's so much easier to give somebody their dinner in an armchair than having to sit them up the bed and clear the tables, and it has just made, you walk onto a ward, people are getting involved in bingo, in art, in decorating. There's one of the wards looks like Santa's grotto. There's the patients have made that many Christmas decorations, and it's watching the staff getting involved in that as well, and it makes it. It's not a job to them anymore. They're actually they're enjoying being back at work, and for me that's hugely important as well, because it's really difficult in the NHS at the moment, and
Yes.
everybody's exhausted, and to bring that joy back into the workplace is huge.
And Karon, we know that as nurses ourselves, that it is difficult to mobilise with the assistance of two when you've only got one of you and what have you. But basically, I think what you're saying is when you get started, it takes itself forward and gets easier, and then your workload becomes lighter as your patients become more able to do things for themselves.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we find is we've opened visiting up. We're saying to relatives, please bring clothes in, please come in, bring your pack up, or we'll give you a sandwich. Come and eat with your loved one. Encourage them, go and sit in the table in the bay window, go and sit in the day room. If we've got a part of our staff canteen here at the QE that relatives can use, and we're like, actually, do you know what, if you want to take your loved one off the ward while you go to the canteen to get some lunch, we'll supply their dinner in the canteen. And families have become really engaged in it. One of my wards in particular, since we started the Reconditioning Games, has had 0 complaints and PALS concerns, and about 120 compliments in the 4 weeks that we've been running the games. So it just makes that difference to families as well. They can absolutely see and feel the care that their loved ones are getting. And for me and yourself, we've got elderly parents. We worry about them. We want to see and know that they're being looked after really well. And again, you just get that feeling when you walk onto the wards that are really engaged.
I'm hearing community. I'm hearing that the hospital is part of the community and the community are part of the hospital.
Absolutely.
And that's the way it should be. And it's not always easy. And it's wonderful that you've got your visiting back into full flow, and more so than even pre-COVID, because it is that contact with people's family that gives them the will and the determination, isn't it? Gives them the hope.
It certainly is. It was awful for everybody through COVID. I think that was probably the most awful part, or one of the most awful parts, not allowing people to see their loved ones. And this has just really encouraged everybody to just say, do you know what, everybody can have a part in making these patients well.
And everybody does have a part. And I think if we are to manage and succeed as an NHS as we go forward, we need to understand the distinct parts that everyone plays. And a fundamental part of that is family members and carers, and then being part of that decision-making process, and us not taking that autonomy away from the families and the patients.
And actually, one of the things that we weren't great at during COVID either was that communicating with families and keeping them informed. And this has given us the opportunity to do that as well. They're coming in it's really difficult for people. We know what it's like when we work ourselves. When you've got very strict visiting times, how do you manage to fit everything in, and what do you prioritize? So actually, do you know what? If you work a night shift, you can come in the morning and give your mum breakfast, and help us get mum up and mobilised and washed, and it just makes such a difference to people.
Wow. Okay, so it's affected patients, it's affected staff, it's affected carers and families, and you've brought the community into the hospital. We're looking at physical health and mental health and joy back into your wards, and it's absolutely wonderful to see. Karon, if anybody wants to get involved, what would you say your key tip or your big learning has been, or what should people be aware of when they're joining up for this?
So I guess for me, we were at a little bit of an advantage here, Emma, because we had the East of England Deconditioning Games last year. That we got involved we got involved with and was really successful initially. The reason that I got so involved this time around was we weren't able to sustain it, and this time round we have to sustain this. when you see the difference that it makes to patients, staff, relatives, we have to sustain this. So for me, your key stakeholders, get your key stakeholders involved. So get your board, your execs behind you. We've got our charitable funds committee behind us as well for stuff that we may need to buy to facilitate it. And then I guess for me, we're really, our next step now is trying to engage the rest of the wards that aren't quite engaging, but get a couple of real strong individuals that are really going to take this and run with it and show that we can make a difference, and get them out there on social media as well. I'm sure some of you have seen Sarah Champion and Sam Jude both on Twitter from both their wards, and actually then the ward next door goes, hang on a minute, and it's about that. You get your key people. Get your key people that aren't frightened to get involved and speak out, and definitely get your allied health professionals involved, because they have been brilliant. And I think I said to you last week, Emma, the collaborative working between the different disciplines that this has also brought about has been immense as well. And I'm getting emails every day from the OTs and physios congratulating the ward staff and how well they've done at mobilising patients. That never happened. So it has gelled everybody together. And I would just say, do you know what? Just go out there, be bold, take as many photographs as you want, shout about it as much as you can, because it's just really important.
Karon, that is wonderful. Now, your journey definitely doesn't stop here, should I say, and we'd really like to catch up again and hear what else you've done as your journey continues on the reconditioning, the reconditioning work. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute joy, and the best of luck to everybody at your trust. And thank you so much for your leadership in this. It's wonderful.